So at this point, you guys know I absolutely love building Vivarium's. I mean, it's fun. Everyone turns out like a big piece of artwork that I've created. So to me, I get a lot of pleasure out of it. So what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Vivarium build, but this one is for somebody that I would have never expected. This is a build for somebody. Don't really want to call it a customer because he's a very good friend of mine. Max Strong is one of the biggest animal influencers on Instagram today. He's worked with many different species of big cats, monkeys, primates, all that fun stuff. But me and him particularly bonded on something that I used to work with dearly to my heart, and that is hyenas. So as many of you guys may or may not know, I used to work with a hyena. Her name was Sahara. She was the best thing in the world to me. That's why I have the big hyena tattoo on my chest. Believe it or not, Max, though, he's worked with many different hyenas. It's such amazing work he does. We have a little secret gang called the Hyena Gang. It's not really a gang, but he had hit me up one day and asked me if I would build him a vivarium for his crested gecko. And of course, I said yes. So starting off with this massive cage, this is actually one that I've particularly never done before. This one is 18 wide by 18 deep by 36 inches tall. This is a paludarium enclosure, so the base is actually a lot thicker than the other ones that I've worked on in the past. But Max actually has a couple of these already and he wanted to continue that look, so he asked me to build this for him. Now, the hardscape, I did take my time with it because it is a crested gecko. It is not like anything I've worked on before. Crested geckos actually cannot stick to that normal brown background that I do. So I had to add a lot of cork bark, as you can see. Going around as much as I possibly could with the cork bark just to give the crested gecko spots to stick to when climbing around the cage. Now, I did want to give him some hide spots as well with the cork bark, so I did add a couple of different branches coming out, and then foamed it all in with that amazing great stuff pond and stone that I love oh so much. So this is a little bit different as well. Again, their pads don't really stick to the peat moss that I normally use, so I actually decided to use sheet moss in this one to add a little bit more texture and also to kind of hold the humidity in, because crested geckos seem to like humidity a bit. So, putting all this sheet moss in, I did it literally one piece at a time, but it moves a little bit faster since I don't have to wait for most of it to dry. The finished product, I actually liked quite a bit. I think it came out awesome looking. So like usual, there's a couple spots where you can actually see the silicone kind of peeking through the background, pointing out some of those spots. It's not really that big of a deal. Just like in past or previous videos, you can very simply just take a little silicone, put it on there, and cover it with something else. So I didn't want to keep the same texture around. As you guys know, I like the different textures and different looks because, well, a jungle isn't all the same thing. So I took a little bit of sphagnum moss and kind of just covered it, stuck it to it. I did this a couple different places all over the cage that the silicone was actually showing through. This was the very first spot right above the feeding bowl for the crested gecko. But the overall look of it, I think it came out nice. hoping that that stuff will start to green up in a couple of weeks for Max, and it'll look a lot better. Now again, trying something I've never done before, actually using a foam base. I know this is kind of a big thing in other vivariums. A lot of people have started to switch to the foam, so I figured I'll give it a try in Max's cage to help make it a little bit lighter. It's very good for it. It does the same thing as the clay balls do. Also, putting the drainage layer over it is important so that that substrate doesn't seep down into the foam. Because this particular cage is going to have a lot of substrate in it, I wanted to make it as light as I possibly could. So then very simply putting in the substrate that I make myself. It's my very own ABG mix. So very thick substrate, which will help the plants grow very nicely. Now this first plant I'm actually putting in, now as most of you guys know, if you're new to my channel, I don't do the whole naming of the plants because I'm horrible at it. But this plant I actually have in other cages, and I know it gets nice, big, and tall, so I was going to put that in the back corner. The second plant here is actually, believe it or not, it's called Mother-in-Law's Tongue, but this is a dwarf version. The normal version gets anywhere from 3 to 4 feet tall. From my understanding, this one will only get roughly about 2 feet tall, which is perfect in a 36-inch tall cage. Now me personally, I love ferns, so I decided to put 2 ferns in this cage, but they are actually the same exact fern on both sides, so it'll kind of match. Now this little guy that I'm sticking in behind the cork bark here in my little hidden planter. Now I know this guy gets a little viney, won't really necessarily grow to the wall. It may not really sure, but I figured it will add a nice little texture to the wall as well, right below the cup for feeding the crested geckos. It was a little bit of a pain to kind of get in there, but once it was in there, I think it looked awesome. Now going up to the bromeliads, I wanted to put 2 in here. The 2 that I put in here do not have any spikes on the leaves at all, so they're completely fine for the crested geckos. Actually, everything that I put in here is okay for crested geckos because it was actually a kit for crested geckos that I bought off of Josh's Frogs, believe it or not. So the second one I did have to drill a hole for, which actually makes it a lot easier. Kind of wanted to do it for the first one, but the piece of wood that I put the first one on had plenty of little open holes that I could stick the stem into. So after I drilled the hole, just very simply taking the bromeliad, sticking it in the hole, and that's it. Now this last little plant I'm putting here is kind of a ground cover plant. It'll grow all over the base of this cage and fill in quite nice. I do have this particular one in other cages, and they kind of take over the base, which is awesome. After everything's planted, you give it a nice little soak down. You don't have to soak everything too heavy. I still have a couple more plants I want to plant, but I haven't been able to get them yet. Sorry for that background noise. My monitor is currently trying to get out of his cage like always. But it is time for the bugs now. Starting with the isopods, tropical white dwarf isopods. You can see them crawling across the screen right there. These little guys are awesome, little cleanup crew. Then we got springtails hopping around, look like little white fleas. So putting those guys in the cage, also putting the leaf litter in the cage as well after the bugs are in. This will give the bugs something to hide under and also to start eating as well. Also makes the cage look a lot better. Now, something I've been trying to get Max to do for a while is switch to a misting system, so I figured I will go ahead and help push that by actually adding a Mist King head for him. He sprays all his cages down by hand, but he does also travel a lot. So I figured this would make it a lot easier for him, kind of giving him the push to get started. Not only that, but I did also send him the link to, buy a Miss King set. So hopefully he does, but this way he doesn't have to sit here and self-water all of these plants. That's fine.
It's gone? Yeah. We're ready?
Yeah.
We're ready?
We're ready.
All right.
All right, guys, so Max just got here from Jamaica, right?
We came from Jamaica yesterday, yes.
So they
just for this, I literally came back because this was here. If this wasn't here, I wasn't coming back.
So this has been almost 3 months, and then the move happened, and so much different stuff. So finally was able to get it done. I'm very happy with it. Hopefully
I'm stoked to see it. Like, my geckos are going to be moving. I saw Will making all of these things. I was messaging him like every day because I love making Vivarium's, but I quickly realized he's way better at it than I am, and I had to have him do it. It made no sense for me to keep trying when I know how good he is at it.
Well, thank you. You ready to see this thing?
I am. I've been waiting. I've hyped you up a lot already, so I hope you live up to it. But I have faith.
Okay, so sorry the camera did die, but Max does love his cage, so I'm happy you're able
I'm
to come get
obsessed. It's amazing. Thank you so much for doing this. This is not the last one. I'm sorry.
We'll have more coming.
yeah, there's gonna be more. We're gonna get all my little critters outfitted in these guys because I want them to live right, and they need the plants. You know what I'm saying?
So sorry about the weird lighting. Our power went off. The noise in the background is the generator from our neighbors.
Is it really?
Yeah. Which I'm about to pull our generator out. It was supposed to be on like an hour ago, and it's still not on. So, yeah, that's gonna be it for this, guys.
Yes.
Yeah, that's gonna be it for this episode, guys. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching. Big thank you to my Patreons.
It's a wizard.
I don't know about that, but
for this is insane. There are not many people that can do this well. So seriously,
thank you.
It's impressive.
So, we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.